So to all these folks, and every 20 minutes,
Yeah.
everyone's got 20 minutes.
All right. So what I would like to do here is I will have just played the title track off of the new album right before this. So people that don't know Mordred will have at least gotten a flavor of what you guys are like, and then we can take off. I am just going to talk about the band's timeline. You can give me information about it, talk about it. We'll talk about what's going on right now, plans you have coming up, and then I'm going to ask you to help me program my next set by picking a couple of Mordred songs for me, and also maybe a couple of songs from other bands that pair well with Mordred. So you can program my next 20 minutes for me after this.
Oh, okay. That sounds fun.
All right. So for people that have now heard this and maybe don't know the history of the band, you guys were very active back in the late 80s and 90s. And in fact, I had Fool's Game and In This Life on cassette way back in the day.
Nice.
And then you had The Next Room coming out in 94. And in between then and now, some EPs and singles came out, but now you've released the full length The Dark Parade here in 2021. So you're probably tired of this question and explaining it, but where have you been?
Actually, this is good. You've already covered the history and the age of Mordred, so I don't have to go all the way back to 1984. So yeah, basically, we were crowdfunded back into existence in 2014 by a fan who got in touch with Danny on the day that he was visiting San Francisco. He had moved to New York, a long time ago. He was visiting us in 2013, actually. And the day that we were playing together for the first time in, a really long time, since 94, a fan from the UK contacted him and through social media and said basically, hey, is this Dan White from that band Mordred? And Dan replied and said, yeah. So the guy introduced himself, Matt Denny from the UK, a longtime fan. He had seen us at the Marquee in London way back in the end of the 80s. And he basically wasted no time and said, well, what would it take to get you guys to come out to the UK to do a UK tour? And Dan's, asked us all, could we possibly even do this? He asked the band on the spot, and we were like, yeah, but it would probably take resources, money, basically, and time to prepare. And with that, he basically, this guy, Matt Denny, and another group of friends who we had in the UK who we didn't even know existed or had forgotten about, they basically got together crowdfunding situation, got a bunch of equipment that we could use for a backline if we were to come out there, and basically helped us make an arrangement to get out there, and provided a means of funding through crowdfunding. And so summer 2014, we left for the UK, and really that experience is what sparked us to put out yet another EP, to even consider these things as a band again, because we had not been in existence for quite a few years. But since we've done that, it's like we've never really been away.
That's amazing.
It's weird. It doesn't even seem like we've stopped. It just seems like our career ended. We just didn't release any products, but we basically are carrying on where we were from where we were as a band.
I'm starting to make a mental list of what bands are out there that I could try that with, contact them and say, hey, what would it take? That's a great story. So you mentioned Dan, I think, for the listeners, this is going to go out Sunday night, so I'm pre-recording this. But for the people that are listening, I'm going to try my best to run through the band members here. You, Arthur Liboon, playing bass. Jeff, is it Gomes?
Yes.
On drums, James Sanguinetti guitars, Danny White guitars, Aaron Vaughn keyboards and that turntable, and Scott Holderby on vocals. And almost everybody are original members from back, at least in this Life era. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. With the exception of Gannon Hall, he has expressed loving the fact that we're doing it, but he can't do it because he has a family and job obligations, things like that.
It's amazing you were able to pull everybody back together again like that with the one exception. When I was poking around looking at details, I noticed on the music metal database online that a couple of you have credits with Mercenary touring with them in between.
Those were actually, so Mercenary is a band that one of the original members of Mordred. So back in '84, back in the garage, actually our first show we played with a guy named Sven Soderlund. He was our, not our primary songwriter, but he was the other guitarist. He was another lead guitarist along with Alex Gerald in the earliest lineup, and he played our first show with us. And after about 2 shows, I think it was, Sven just stopped showing up to Mordred practices, and we found out later that he was actually forming a band on his own called Mercenary. And so when he, when that happened, our first drummer also had left. Slade Anderson, he left and joined Mercenary also. And funny enough, they were forming this band with Danny White, who was not yet to be invited into Mordred. Back then, it was Alex Gerald and Jim Sanguinetti on guitar, Jim Sanguinetti would take the place of Sven on guitar, and so. So this band Mercenary has always, like a Mordred, has always had never-ending lineup changes. And they were kind of, we didn't mind that, we were bummed that Sven left, but there were guitarists who were willing to just step in and were psyched.
Yeah.
So we were psyched there was just another band that we could potentially, play with and book shows together and have some, solidarity as we, could have 2 bands, trying to, go for the same situation. Mercenary, I don't know how many shows they played, but they did release a demo tape with Danny White on it, and Slade Anderson, Brooks Holland on bass. And Sven sang. Great 4-song demo. It's one of my favorite things to listen to from that period. Although there's very little bass. I don't know why that is. Fucking guitarists. When Mordred was asked to play the Tidal Wave Festival in 2007. The Tidal Wave Festival is a San Francisco festival that happens in the McLaren Park of San Francisco, or it was happening then. I'm not sure if it's happening anymore, but we were invited to reform and play this festival, and we did. And Mercenary also reformed to play that. So that was really the only time I've actually played in Mercenary, is to fill in for whoever many bassists they've had in that band, but it was fun, and I love that music. Very high energy, very traditional SF thrash.
Yeah, nice. So that's a good other jumping point in for the Mordred story is, and let's not count years, how many years ago it was, but back in the beginning, you guys were from the Bay Area, really the thrash all over the place. And you guys had this mix of the funk and the turntable with the thrashy and heavy elements. How did that style come about? Did everybody decide it was a good idea? Did somebody convince the others, hey, this is going to sound cool? How did that happen?
Well, it wasn't, at that time, there were a lot of bands playing thrash and a lot of bands that were very traditional. And the only difference, for us, we is either they had a good, a band would have a good singer or they didn't, or they had a, great, rhythm section, or they, or whatever, or they were just a great band, or they were just, kind of a band you want to not want to see again, whatever. But they all didn't, they all had kind of the same, they were all attacking it in the same way. And for us, we were listening to, at the time, Public Enemy, NWA, all this other type of music that was urban. We were from San Francisco, so I mean, this music cross-pollinated with us as musicians, and for being, it wasn't punk. It was, it was an urban form of being anti-establishment. Back then, that's what it sounded like to us. There were commercial acts, but we paid no attention to that stuff, as we really didn't pay attention to any commercial music. But the underground hip hop stuff that was happening was, it was something we all appreciated as a band. We all listened to it, and because it was new, and to us, as well as all the metal stuff we liked, and the punk stuff, and the hard rock, and everything else that we listened to. So we one of the bands that we used to see in our spare time was a band called MCM the Monster, where DJ Paz was also the DJ in. Now that band was kind of a rock band, party band. They were all about having fun and really hilarious lyrics in their songs. But they were more on the rock, sort of Beastie Boys-ish, early Beastie Boys-ish sound. Not, it was good. It was, it was catchy stuff. And when they were imploding, when they were no longer, when it looked like they were no longer going to be a band, we invited Aaron to join us in the studio to, well, actually, before they were imploding, we invited him to come in on Super Freak while we were in the studio for a demo, and he came in. We liked it. Carl Walterbach of Noise Records liked it, and then by the time we got to recording the first record, MCM the Monster was imploding, and we just asked Aaron if he'd like to come in and join after some time. If he wasn't doing anything, we could start developing stuff, with him in as a member, and that happened. When we wrote the song "Every Day's a Holiday" in the studio while we were recording Fool's Game, we put that one together in the studio. Aaron's part worked, as it appeared to us, pretty much exactly how we imagined it at the time, and then we integrated him for the next record, In This Life, and it just kept, the adaptation was happening. So, it just became part of our sound. That's just how we approach it. We don't really think of it as, we basically will have a heavy song, for example, and we'll hear all the parts together, and, however that song might form in our heads cinematically, it's easy to get to sound effects and stuff.
Sure.
With this type of technology, and Aaron comes in and just makes it happen.
I don't know if you've had a chance to, or had much time with the new release, The Dark Parade, to kind of gather feedback and see what the reception is, but can you tell if there's any difference in reception and how you guys are received, comparing now with the new release to back then when you were trying to get yourself out there?
It's we have actually been looking, and we're seeing what you're seeing, a lot of positive stuff. I haven't really seen any truly negative stuff yet. I've seen people who are sort of on the fence, who are like, is this what we want? And it's like, it's just what we got. People are asking the big questions like, is music, asking questions that are way out there, they're putting it out to the readers. And as far as I can tell, the people who are writing, whether they like the material or not. And this is a much credit to them. They actually have done the homework on what Mordred is, So they're really good. I find that, writers these days are really good at doing their research, telling the story, and, as far as I can tell, it's as accurate as I could tell it. And they're, they're true to the story, which is what I appreciate, whether they like the band or not, or whether or not they give a good review. I applaud them for actually getting the whole story out, because for a long time, when I look on the web, there would just be guys who just weren't really didn't really know what Mordred was. They knew that we were hybridizing metal. And a lot of folks don't like that, I guess. They didn't like that we did it, but they weren't there at the time.
Right.
They had never seen a Mordred show, and as far as I'm concerned, they probably never even thrashed for a whole show. So, and then they're on the web just saying these final statements about the history of Mordred. But these days, now that this record's come out, it seems like the writers are the writers today are like at least know the story, and so far I've seen a lot of good reviews.
That's good. One of the things I've noticed is that since your call it a resurgence, over the last several years with some singles and EPs and now the full length, you've also been very busy making videos, and it looks like you're having a lot of fun with those too. Have those been sort of at the band's initiative, or is that coming from the record label's initiative?
No, that's pretty much all us. So we figured, since we were putting together the Dark Parade on our own dime. We got a loan, and we were before we got signed.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, and then we got signed to, and they M Theory basically signed us sight unseen. They're like, oh, Mordred's doing something, and they just signed us for a couple of records. And we were psyched, because that relieved a lot of the stress for us. But now we had all this creative energy, and we just decided, why don't we start putting out content that people can just access. People don't really know, may not remember who we are or know who we are. Why don't we just put out videos on YouTube that people can see what it is. And we just sort of came out with that. We just figured out this, what other bands had figured out. They could just play in front of a studio, during COVID. You can just play in the studio with no people and put it out, and that's just what we're doing. So we're trying to come up with things that could fill, it wouldn't just be the band, but would have some entertainment value. I don't know if it is or not, but we're trying.
Yeah, so I went and sort of browsed through them all, and from the EP Volition from last year, there's videos for Love of Money, which is great. I love the sort of lounge act vibe going on there.
Oh, you're talking about those videos. I thought you meant the live YouTube stuff. Yeah, the videos that we're kicking out, we just do all ourselves, because with technology these days, it's not hard to get a camera. It's not hard to get editing suites. It's really it's come a long way. And so it's we can get it to look decent. And so, we've just been doing those ourselves.
Great.
Internally.
Yeah, so Love of Money, Volition, Not For You, Malignancy, All Eyes on the Prize, and a lyric video for Demonic Number 7. That's what I was able to dig up. So with everything being uncertain these days, do you have any hopes, plans to get into a regular touring schedule, do some festivals? What's on the landscape there?
We don't have anything booked because I think there's a big backup of bands who were already scheduled to be touring. We're kind of late to the game, unless some band might cancel or fall off the bill or whatever. We're pretty much that is if things even open up enough for us to do that. Who knows? We've already had to cancel our first sort of record release comeback show because of this new COVID variant, which is scarily, for a lot of people and for us, 1 degree of separation. And we know somebody who's, ill, but not in the hospital with the vaccines. It's helping, I guess. But unless we come up with a vaccine that can kill it, it's just going to keep mutating.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap up here so that you can move on to the next person. If I can get you to help me out. So like I mentioned, I will have already played the title track off of the Dark Parade. So apart from that song, for people that are new to Mordred and you want to give them the best flavor of what you guys are about, can you name me a couple of songs, either from the new one or an old one, that I should play? And then maybe a song by somebody else that's a favorite of yours or that you think just kind of goes really well with what you guys do.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I would say from the Dark Parade, "I Am Charlie" is a song that probably would is sort of more traditional, with the combination of it's more traditional Mordred, if anything.
Yeah.
Let's see, from our old catalog, listen to "State of Mind," track 1 of Fool's Game. Other bands, I'm really liking, guys, it sound like a know nothing right now. I like Opeth, and I like a lot of that Dillinger Escape Project. But I'm going to say listen to a band, if you can find them, called Personality Crisis.
Okay.
They had an album called Creatures for a while. And that album, I like as much as I've liked that album as long as I've liked, Rush as a band. Except they have maybe 2 albums, but check out Creatures for a while.
Okay.
The whole album.
I will see if I can dig that out and pick something that's radio friendly. I don't know if that's good odds or bad odds with them, but we'll see. So,
should be.
Yeah, again, so Arthur Liboon from Mordred, bass player, thank you so much for talking with me for a few minutes. I wish you the best of luck with this relaunch, if I can call it that, into the business. And hoping to see continuing great things out of Mordred.
It's been great talking to you, Ken, and hello, Valparaiso.